Welcome to the Forbidden Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Carter. In the early 1940s, a series of unsettling events took place in the quiet town of Hopton, England. Reports surfaced of locals experiencing unexplained phenomena, from oppressive feelings of dread to sleep paralysis, and even claims of seeing shadowy figures. The strange occurrences were attributed to everything from mass hysteria to the supernatural. But one theory, a theory that has been whispered in hushed tones for centuries, was that these events were the work of Archons. The term Archon traces its roots back to ancient Greece, where it referred to rulers or lords. The Archons were originally 9 in number, each governing a celestial sphere. But in Gnosticism, a branch of early Christianity, Archons took on a more sinister role. They were viewed as malevolent entities, cosmic usurpers who fed on human fear and negativity. This ancient belief resurfaced in Hopton as more and more townsfolk reported feeling an inexplicable sense of terror, which seemed to intensify at night. Local Dr. Edward Sullivan noted a trend in these reports. The victims all described seeing shadowy forms in their peripheral vision, a sensation of being watched, and a deep-seated fear that seemed to emanate from within their own minds. Dr. Sullivan, a man of science, initially dismissed these claims as the result of stress or hallucinations. But as the phenomenon persisted, he found himself questioning his own skepticism. Could it be possible that these ancient entities, these Archons, were more than just myth? Could they indeed be real and actively feeding on the fear of the townspeople? However, it wasn't until the incident involving the local school teacher, Margaret Thornton, that the situation took a drastic turn. One night, Margaret woke up paralyzed, a dark form looming over her. In her terror-stricken state, she claimed to have heard a voice which whispered in an unknown language, the sound echoing in her mind long after it had stopped. This incident left Margaret deeply traumatized, further fueling the fear in Hopton. As word of Margaret's experience spread, more people began to come forward with similar stories. The town was gripped by a palpable fear, a fear that seemed to be feeding these unseen entities. This led to the formation of a group of locals dedicated to understanding and combating the Archon threat. They began delving into ancient texts, seeking answers in ancient Gnostic teachings, and drawing upon esoteric knowledge to combat their unseen enemy. But as they would soon discover, the Archons were not easily understood or defeated. The entities seemed to change and adapt, thriving on the fear that their actions generated. This escalating cycle of fear and feeding would push the townspeople to their limits, forcing them to confront not only the presence of these entities, but also the very nature of fear itself. From Hopton, England to the heart of ancient Greece, the mystery of the Archons continued to deepen, raising questions about the nature of fear, the power of belief, and the boundaries between reality and the supernatural. Our story takes us back in time to the cradle of Western civilization, ancient Greece. For the Greeks, life was a rich tapestry of gods, heroes, and otherworldly entities. But among this pantheon of beings, there existed a lesser-known group, the Archons. According to the Gnostics, an early Christian sect, these entities were not gods, but rather lower-level authorities or rulers of the material world. The Gnostics depicted the Archons as ethereal beings that could influence human thought and emotion. The primary weapon of the Archons, according to these ancient teachings, was manipulation. They would sow seeds of fear and doubt, creating an environment ripe for their influence. The Gnostics believed that through this manipulation of fear, the Archons could feed and grow stronger, exerting even greater control over the physical world. But how did these beliefs come to be? To understand this, we need to delve into the Gnostics' worldview, one that was deeply connected to their perception of the cosmos. The Gnostics held a dualistic belief system, seeing the world as a battleground between the forces of good and evil, light and dark, spirit and matter. They viewed the material world as inherently flawed, a prison for the divine spark that resides in every human being. In this worldview, the Archons were the jailers, the overseers of this material prison. They were the agents of the demiurge, a lower god who, in his ignorance, believed himself to be the true God and creator of the material universe. The Archons, as extensions of the Demiurge, sought to keep humans trapped in the material realm, away from the higher spiritual realities. To achieve this, they would exploit human fear, the most potent and pervasive of emotions. Fear, in its many forms, served as a barrier, preventing individuals from realizing their divine nature and seeking liberation. The Archons would manipulate this fear, feeding off its energy to sustain their influence over the material world. This belief system, while obscure and esoteric, persisted for centuries. From the arid landscapes of Egypt to the bustling markets of Constantinople, Gnostic teachings spread across the ancient world, carrying with them the tales of the Archons. Despite persecution and the passage of time, these beliefs survived, passed down through generations, hidden within sacred texts and mystical traditions. Fast forward to the 21st century, to the small town of Hopton, England. Here, echoes of these ancient beliefs have resurfaced. The townspeople, gripped by an inexplicable fear, are once again speaking of the Archons, the ancient entities that lurk in the shadows, feeding on human fear. Could these ancient beliefs hold the key to understanding the strange phenomenon unfolding in Hopton? Or is there a more rational explanation, hidden in the realms of psychology and neuroscience? As the lines blur between past and present, myth and reality, the mystery of the Archons continues to unfurl. The exploration of this enigmatic subject leads us to the Nag Hammadi Library, an invaluable resource discovered in Egypt in 1945. This collection of ancient texts, also known as the Gnostic Gospels, provides a rare glimpse into the world of the Gnostics and their beliefs about the Archons. In the texts, the Archons are depicted as malevolent entities, often represented as mythical creatures or celestial bodies, who directly interfere with human evolution. One key figure in the study of these texts was the renowned psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung. Jung had an avid interest in Gnosticism and the Archons, incorporating their concepts into his pioneering work on the human psyche. Jung viewed the Archons not as literal external entities, but as archetypal representations of the shadow side of the human psyche, the unconscious fears and desires that can control our lives if left unexamined. Simultaneously, the world of archaeology has also unveiled intriguing findings. In the ancient city of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, archaeologists have uncovered stone carvings that bear an uncanny resemblance to the archonic entities described in Gnostic texts, suggesting that these beliefs might have been more widespread than previously thought. In more recent times, figures like David Icke, a controversial English conspiracy theorist, have brought the concept of Archons to the attention of a wider audience. Icke's ideas, while often dismissed as fringe or fantastical, nonetheless represent a contemporary interpretation of the Archons as manipulative forces operating behind the scenes of our reality. These various threads of evidence, from ancient texts to modern conspiracy theories, suggest a persistent narrative of elusive entities that feed on human fear, whether understood as literal beings or psychological archetypes. However, the question remains: what gives these ancient stories such longevity? Why do they continue to resonate with people thousands of years after they were first told? Perhaps the answer lies not in the existence or non-existence of Archons themselves, but in the universal human experience of fear. Fear is an emotion that transcends time and culture, shaping societies and individuals in profound ways. Our collective fascination with the Archons may then be less about the entities themselves and more about our ongoing struggle to understand and navigate our fears. To better comprehend this, we need to delve deeper into the psychology of fear, to understand its origins, its effects, and how it might be manipulated or exploited. Only then can we begin to unravel the enduring mystery of the Archons. The Archon narrative's resonance could stem from its alignment with certain aspects of the human experience that remain stubbornly consistent across cultures and epochs. The most striking of these is fear. It is a primal, universal emotion that has shaped our evolution, survival, and societal development. The concept of Archons, entities feeding on human fear, might simply be an attempt to personify and explain our persistent and pervasive anxieties. But there's an even more compelling aspect to consider. The theory of Archons doesn't merely suggest the existence of these entities, it posits that they actively manipulate our reality to generate the very fear they feed on. This idea, viewed through a psychological lens, hints at the human tendency towards self-sabotage, where our fears and insecurities can often lead us into situations that reinforce these negative emotions. The Archons, then, could be seen as symbols of this self-destructive cycle. However, the theory of Archons extends beyond the boundaries of psychology into the realm of the paranormal and metaphysical. Gnostic texts describe them as beings from another realm, intervening in our world in ways that defy our understanding of physics and biology. This aspect of the theory challenges not just our understanding of ourselves, but our understanding of the universe and its laws. Furthermore, the Archons' described ability to manipulate human perception suggests a level of control over the mind that's beyond our current scientific understanding. While we know external stimuli can influence our perceptions, the idea of an external entity being able to directly manipulate our thoughts and emotions is a leap into uncharted territory. The existence of Archons also disrupts the conventional historical timeline. If the depictions in Göbekli Tepe are indeed Archons, it implies a belief system far more ancient than the Gnostic texts we derive most of our understanding from. This could potentially upend established narratives about the evolution of religious and spiritual beliefs. Despite these compelling anomalies, the Archon theory still lacks empirical evidence. While fear itself is a tangible, measurable phenomenon, the entities purported to feed off it remain elusive. The carvings at Göbekli Tepe, while intriguing, are open to interpretation and don't provide conclusive proof. Moreover, the theory's reliance on the supernatural and metaphysical means it operates outside the parameters of traditional scientific inquiry. As such, it's unlikely to be proven or disproven by conventional means. This leaves us in a curious position, where the theory of Archons, while fascinating and disruptive, remains fundamentally unverifiable. However, our inability to conclusively prove or disprove the existence of Archons doesn't diminish the importance of exploring the narrative. Whether they're literal entities or psychological metaphors, the Archons represent a critical aspect of our collective psyche. They force us to confront our fears, to question our perceptions of reality, and to grapple with the mysteries of existence. In doing so, they reveal as much about ourselves as they do about the universe around us. Exploring the physical and scientific evidence surrounding the existence of Archons requires a broad and multidisciplinary approach. Let's start with carbon dating, a method used to determine the age of ancient artifacts and geological formations. If the carvings found at Göbekli Tepe are indeed depictions of Archons, they suggest a belief system dating back over 10,000 years. Carbon dating could confirm this, but it cannot provide insights into the nature or origins of the entities themselves. The construction of megalithic structures, such as the stones at Göbekli Tepe, also provides an area of exploration. The techniques and tools used to create these ancient sites are still largely a mystery, leading some to suggest advanced or even extraterrestrial intervention. However, these theories have been largely dismissed by mainstream archaeologists and historians who argue that human ingenuity and teamwork would have been sufficient. Sacred geometry, the belief that certain geometric shapes and patterns have spiritual or symbolic significance, also comes into play when discussing Archons. Some proponents of the Archon theory argue that these entities are represented in the geometric patterns found in ancient art and architecture. However, this is a subjective interpretation, and there's no scientific consensus about the meaning or purpose of these patterns. DNA studies provide another potential avenue of exploration. Some proponents of the Archon theory argue that these entities have manipulated our genetic code to control our thoughts and emotions. However, this is a highly speculative idea, and there's currently no scientific evidence to support it. Genetic research has revealed a great deal about our physical characteristics and susceptibilities to certain diseases. But the idea that our DNA could be manipulated by external entities is beyond the realm of current scientific understanding. So, what can modern science tell us about the existence of Archons? At present, the answer is very little. The Archon theory operates outside the parameters of traditional scientific inquiry, making it difficult to test or verify. Most of the evidence put forward by proponents of the theory is either subjective or speculative, and there's no empirical evidence to suggest that these entities exist in the physical world. However, the lack of physical evidence doesn't necessarily discredit the Archon theory. Many aspects of human experience, including consciousness and emotion, remain poorly understood despite decades of scientific research. It's possible that the Archons represent a facet of our existence that we're currently unable to explain or comprehend. In conclusion, while the physical and scientific evidence for the existence of Archons is inconclusive, the theory continues to provoke thought and debate. It pushes the boundaries of our understanding and challenges us to question our perceptions of reality. Regardless of its veracity, the Archon theory provides a fascinating insight into the human psyche and our ongoing quest to understand the mysteries of existence. As intriguing as the Archon theory may be to some, it's important to highlight the degree of mainstream pushback and suppression it has faced. A range of entities, from academic institutions to media outlets, have sought to debunk or discredit the idea of Archons. Their reasons are varied, but primarily stem from a lack of empirical evidence, the speculative nature of the theory, and its deviation from established scientific understandings. Leading the charge are skeptics from the academic community, particularly those in the fields of archaeology, genetics, and psychology. These scholars emphasize the importance of empirical evidence and reproducible, testable hypotheses in establishing the validity of any theory. The Archon theory, they argue, lacks all these. The interpretations of geometric patterns in ancient art and architecture, for instance, are seen as highly subjective and not grounded in any tangible evidence. Similarly, the idea of Archons manipulating human DNA is seen as speculative and not supported by any known genetic research. Moreover, academics point out that the theory often borrows complex concepts from various disciplines, quantum physics, psychology, and ancient history to name a few, without demonstrating a comprehensive understanding of these fields. This cherry-picking of scientific and historical concepts to support preconceived notions is often decried as pseudoscience, an imitation of science that lacks its rigorous methods and standards. Media outlets, for their part, often echo these academic criticisms. However, their motivations are not solely rooted in the pursuit of truth and knowledge. Media outlets, especially those with a mainstream audience, have a vested interest in maintaining their credibility. This often means avoiding association with fringe theories, especially those deemed pseudoscientific or conspiratorial, which could potentially harm their reputation. Further complicating matters is the fact that the Archon theory sits at the intersection of science and spirituality, an area that is often met with skepticism and dismissal in mainstream discourse. A debate around this theory is not merely an exercise in scientific rigor, but also a confrontation of differing worldviews. In a world where empirical, materialistic explanations are favored, theories that propose unseen spiritual entities are likely to face an uphill battle. At an institutional level, the suppression of the Archon theory can be seen as a manifestation of the broader trend of sidelining non-mainstream ideas. Institutions, whether academic, media, or otherwise, tend to favor established narratives and resist ideas that challenge their foundational beliefs. In this case, the Archon theory's radical departure from conventional scientific and philosophical frameworks makes it a prime target for suppression. In the end, the resistance to the Archon theory underscores the tension between orthodoxy and heterodoxy, between the known and the unknown, and between empirical science and metaphysical speculation. It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is not always a straightforward path, and that new ideas, however outlandish they may seem, are often met with resistance before they are accepted, if they are ever accepted at all. In the grand scheme of things, the question of Archon reality extends far beyond mere intellectual curiosity or philosophical musing. If these entities do exist, the implications for our understanding of human origins, consciousness, divine purpose, and cosmic design could be profound and far-reaching. The Archon theory, at its very core, suggests that humanity is not the supreme authority over its own destiny, but a pawn in a cosmic game played out by unseen forces. This idea, though jarring, isn't entirely alien to human thought. Many religious and philosophical systems, from Gnosticism to Buddhism, have long proposed the idea that human beings are ensnared in a cycle of ignorance and suffering, manipulated by forces beyond their immediate perception. Our understanding of consciousness, too, could be deeply impacted by the Archon theory. If these entities feed off human fear and negative emotions, as the theory suggests, then our consciousness isn't merely a passive observer of reality, but an active participant, capable of attracting or repelling certain forces based on its vibrational frequency. This idea aligns with concepts found in quantum physics, where the observer is acknowledged to play a crucial role in the observed phenomenon. The theory also presents a challenging perspective on divine purpose. If humanity is indeed under the influence of Archons, the divine plan, as understood by most religious traditions, may need to be fundamentally re-evaluated. The concept of a benevolent God who cares for his creation could come under scrutiny, replaced with an understanding of divinity that acknowledges the presence of malevolent forces within the cosmic order. From a cosmic design standpoint, the existence of Archons introduces an element of duality into the picture. The universe is no longer a harmonious, homogeneous entity, but a battleground of conflicting forces. This dualistic worldview aligns with many ancient philosophies, such as Zoroastrianism and Taoism, which posit that the universe is a balance of opposing forces, and that harmony is achieved not through uniformity, but through the interplay and equilibrium of these forces. In conclusion, the Archon theory, if validated, could radically reshape our understanding of human existence, offering a new lens through which to view our origins, our consciousness, our divine purpose, and the cosmic design. It would compel us to re-evaluate our place in the universe, our relationship with unseen entities, and the nature of reality itself. However, it's important to remember that these implications hinge on the existence of Archons, a premise that remains unproven. The Archon theory, despite the profound questions it raises, remains a speculative hypothesis, one that demands rigorous scrutiny and evidence before it can be accepted as fact. The portrayal of Archons in media and modern culture is a fascinating reflection of humanity's enduring fascination with the hidden, the inexplicable, and the otherworldly. This is most evident in the proliferation of documentaries, books, and online content dedicated to exploring, chronicling, and debating the existence of these alleged invisible entities. In the realm of documentary filmmaking, productions such as Archons, Exorcising the Demiurge, and Aliens, Archons, and the Unseen War offer in-depth explorations of Archon theory. These films delve into ancient texts, quantum physics, and various metaphysical perspectives to construct a narrative around the Archons. They present a patchwork of evidence and testimony, inviting viewers to question their understanding of reality and contemplate the possibility of unseen influences in their lives. The literary world, too, has contributed to the cultural portrayal of Archons. Books such as Not in His Image by John Lamb Lash and The Archons, Hidden Rulers Through the Ages by Dean Fougere delve into the historical roots of the Archon theory, tracing its origins back to Gnosticism and weaving a complex narrative that intertwines religion, philosophy, and mythology. These works invite readers to reconsider the foundations of their belief systems and question the nature of reality itself. The rise of social media platforms and online communities has further expanded the reach of the Archon theory. On platforms like TikTok and YouTube, creators share their interpretations and experiences related to Archons, often blending personal anecdotes with elements of popular culture and esoteric knowledge. These bite-sized, accessible pieces of content have played a significant role in popularizing the concept among younger audiences and those outside traditional truth-seeking circles. Online truth-seeking communities, such as those found on Reddit and various conspiracy theory forums, have become hotbeds for discussion and speculation about Archons. Here, individuals share their theories, experiences, and research, fostering a vibrant, if contentious, dialogue about the existence and influence of Archons. These platforms have also enabled the cross-pollination of ideas, as users from diverse backgrounds bring together disparate threads of thought to weave a complex tapestry of beliefs around the Archon theory. Yet the portrayal of Archons in popular culture is not without its controversies. Critics argue that these portrayals often lack rigorous evidence, relying instead on personal anecdotes, speculative connections, and sensationalism. They caution against the spread of misinformation and the potential harm that can result from fostering fear and paranoia about unseen malevolent forces. Regardless of where one stands on the issue, it is undeniable that the portrayal of Archons in media and modern culture has significantly influenced our collective consciousness, shaping discussions around spirituality, reality, and the unseen forces that may or may not influence our lives. It serves as a reminder of humanity's enduring fascination with the hidden and the unknown, and our relentless pursuit of understanding the complexities of our universe. The debate over the existence of Archons, it seems, is far from over. Delving deeper into the realm of the unseen and the unknown, we find layers of theories and beliefs that intersect with the Archon concept, extending its reach to a point where the fringe becomes the mainstream. In this complex web of ideologies, ancient aliens, interdimensional beings, lost technologies, and hybrid bloodlines surface, each contributing to the enigmatic nature of the Archon narrative. The ancient astronaut theory, which posits that extraterrestrials visited Earth in antiquity and significantly influenced human civilization, often intertwines with Archon beliefs. Proponents of this theory argue that ancient texts and archaeological evidence point to the presence of advanced non-human entities who were perceived as gods by our ancestors. Some suggest that these beings were Archons, using their superior knowledge and technology to manipulate and control humanity. Lost technologies, another offshoot of this narrative, presents an intriguing possibility. Proponents suggest that these ancient alien visitors bestowed advanced technologies upon humanity, some of which have been lost in the annals of time. The idea that Archons, with their purported vast knowledge and abilities, could be responsible for these lost technologies adds another dimension to the Archon theory. Interdimensional beings are also commonly associated with Archons. This belief posits that Archons exist not as physical entities, but as beings that inhabit other dimensions, unseen and undetected by our conventional senses. They supposedly interact with our reality through psychic or energetic manipulation, furthering the idea of Archons as entities that feed on human fear and negativity. Hybrid bloodlines, a concept steeped in ancient mythology and modern conspiracy theory, often intersects with Archon beliefs as well. Proponents of this idea suggest that certain human bloodlines have been infiltrated or hybridized by non-human entities, including Archons. These hybrid bloodlines, they argue, are responsible for maintaining the Archon's influence over humanity, often occupying positions of power and authority. These fringe extensions and esoteric offshoots, while undoubtedly controversial, contribute to the rich tapestry of the Archon theory. They represent the human desire to understand the unknown, to peer into the shadows and make sense of the unseen. Whether one views these ideas as profound insights or fanciful speculation, they serve to broaden our understanding of the Archon narrative, adding depth and complexity to a theory that continues to captivate the collective imagination. As we navigate the vast ocean of theories, beliefs, and speculations, the Archon narrative serves as a beacon, guiding us through the murky waters of the unseen and the unknown. As we approach the end of this exploration into the world of Archons, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of a vast, uncharted expanse. The Archon theory, with its myriad interpretations and offshoots, has led us down a labyrinth of thoughts, challenging us to question our understanding of reality and our place within it. What of the countless unexplained phenomena that continue to baffle scientists and researchers? Could the Archons be responsible? Crop circles, UFO sightings, and even ghostly apparitions could all be manifestations of these interdimensional beings. Their apparent ability to slip between dimensions, to manipulate our reality without detection, could offer an explanation for these enigmatic events. And what of human behavior? The fear and negativity that are said to fuel these beings are all too prevalent in our world. War, hatred, greed. Could these be not just human failings but signs of a deeper, more insidious influence? If Archons do indeed feed on human fear and negativity, then their feast is seemingly endless. The implications of the Archon theory are profound, shaking the very foundations of our understanding of the world. If true, it would reframe our perception of reality, forcing us to acknowledge the existence of unseen entities that exist beyond our comprehension. It would prompt us to question the nature of power, of control, and of our own agency. Yet, despite the compelling narrative and the tantalizing questions it raises, we must also acknowledge the inherent uncertainty that surrounds the Archon theory. Much of it is reliant on speculation, interpretation, and conjecture, the product of a human mind attempting to grapple with the unknowable. While the existence of Archons remains unproven, the allure of the theory persists. It taps into our primal fear of the unknown, our fascination with the unseen, and our inherent desire to understand our place in the cosmos. It challenges us to question, to explore, to seek. What if it's all true? What if there are entities that lurk in the shadows of our reality, influencing our actions and feeding on our fears? What if there are truths so profound, so earth-shattering, that they remain hidden, tucked away in the deepest recesses of our collective consciousness? The Archon theory, in all its complexity, serves as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears and our most profound questions. It isn't just about the existence of otherworldly entities, it's about us, about humanity. It's about our capacity to imagine, to question, to fear, and to seek. It's about our desire to make sense of the world, to find patterns in the chaos, to uncover the hidden truths that lie just beyond the veil of our understanding. The question, then, isn't necessarily if Archons are real, but what the belief in their existence reveals about us. As we stand in the face of the unexplained, the unproven, the unimaginable, what do we see? Are we victims or explorers, prey or pioneers? And perhaps most hauntingly, what else might be hiding in the shadows, awaiting our discovery? The answers, like the truth of the Archons, remain shrouded in mystery. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of the Forbidden Knowledge Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.